Welcome to The Beautiful Side of Grief, your go-to podcast if you're wanting to hear from people who have moved through heart-wrenching loss or those who are at the coalface supporting the process. It's diverse, heartwarming, though most of all it is positive and filled with go-tos that you can use yourself. I'm your host, Helen Morris, and I'm a health professional turned energy healing practitioner after I lost my only child and daughter, Tahl, in a car accident in 2017. I want to use my own unique experience with loss to help you navigate your journey. You will hear from grief coaches, mediums, authors, first-hand loss accounts, plus many, many more. I'll put the links to any free resources in the episode notes. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you can keep informed of each weekly episode. So now grab a pen and paper if you want to jot things down. Sit back and relax as we navigate the beautiful sides of grief. In this, the first episode of The Beautiful Side of Grief, I'm going to share with you the journey that led me right here, right now, to doing this podcast. I'll share with you how I came to have such a positive experience after losing the most precious thing in my life, my daughter, and give you a glimpse of what made her so special to me, plus what I have lined up for you in the following episodes. So let's get this show on the road. When the unimaginable happens, your life changes forever in a blink of an eye, never to return to normal. For some, grief takes you on a journey of heartache, so heartbreaking that trying to keep your head above water becomes an all-consuming task. For others, like myself, it takes a form of being driven to help others navigate this quagmire, or campaign for reform, or move hugely out of your comfort zones to complete epic adventures in honor of your loved ones. My story is one many have suffered. The police car pulling into the driveway and that heart-stopping moment when they confirm that your beautiful teenager is not coming home and has become the latest statistic in the road toll. Where my story perhaps differs is that my beautiful daughter Tahl let me know her accident had happened after she had died. I know, I don't know how to explain this either, except to say that I had this incredibly deep knowing that something was incredibly wrong and I needed to get to her. So I'm going to spare you the details as it's not about her accident, rather the incredible journey that I have had since she left me and what has ultimately led to me doing this podcast. If I said to you my life is probably better than it ever has been, you may look at me sideways and think I was just slightly crazy. I mean, how can your life be better when you've lost the most precious thing in it, when you've lost the love of your life? Yet, for me it is. And I believe that by having that connection at the time of her death, and by Tahl also giving me the vision of her ticking off a checklist, I somehow knew that this was her time, that she had done what she needed to do. I desperately didn't want it to be so, but I also know that it was, and that single realization changed how I looked at everything. And I also knew that all the strange reactions that I had had in the past when hearing of teenagers dying in car accidents, and also something I couldn't explain, had also been preparing me for this moment, for this event. Now, don't get me wrong, I was numb, dazed, shattered, and my heart was torn in two. Tahl and I had been so close during her teenage years that she had become my best friend. We did so much together. And how could this happen? A single mother lose her only child. I quickly learned not to ask that question, for I knew that there would never be any answers, or certainly there wouldn't be any answers that I wanted to hear. So, let me share with you now the beautiful side of Tahl, so you get to know her a little bit. Right from the moment she was born, I knew she was an old soul. Like she turned straight to our voices. She just had this knowing about her. It was like she knew how to do things, and there was just this vibe about her. She attracted people to her right from the get-go. We'd be in the supermarket and she'd be waving at people from the trolley. And that was before she could even talk. And imagine me dealing with this introvert, and having this child attracting all these people to me. I know, I used to cringe, and people would come up to me and I'd go, "Hi, how you doing?" And I'd go, "Child, please, don't be waving." But she always did, and she always attracted the most incredible people to her. She was fiercely loyal to her friends, or people she wanted to protect. She didn't give two hoots whether or not you liked that. I remember some wonderful stories that were shared by her friends, and one in particular that she would go to her mate's place and just bowl on into their house, into his room, and just say, "You get your butt out of bed and to school." And he used to do it, and in return, she'd make him go down to the store that was just down the road from the school and buy her lollies. That was her reward, him buying her lollies, and she loved her lollies. So, yeah, she'd always do things for lollies. She was always a leader. She was a great athlete. She loved hockey, and she was in representative teams for Hawke's Bay since the age of 10 right through her teenage years. And she'd become a really, really fantastic hockey player. And she was a great canoe polo player as well. And in fact, anything she put her hand to, she was really, really good at. And that was even despite the fact that she had been paralyzed at the age of 3 with Guillain-Barré. And she overcome that and still went on to be an incredible athlete. And she had her own distinct vibe and style. Like, she was so happy to be who she was. She didn't feel the need to fit in with others. She just got her own, style with clothes and it just happened for her. And she could be so funny and so annoying and sassy and, oh my gosh, so loving. She loved me unconditionally, even when I got it so horribly wrong. As long as I apologized to her and she knew that was genuine, we were all good. But she didn't like hypocrites, and she would give you a hard time if you were telling her to do one thing and you weren't doing it yourself. Let me tell you. Yeah. Plus, she gave the best hugs. So, after losing her, began the journey of being the luckiest grieving parent. It didn't surprise me that I'd received so many signs from Tahl. Butterflies, feathers, songs on the radio. All the time I just kept seeing and hearing these signs. And I felt her wrapping me up in love, talking to me. Not talking in the sense of hearing her voice as such, but in my head, talking to me. It's a little bit weird to explain, but I still have it to this day where she talks to me. And, allowing me to grieve, but also giving me the impetus to carry on. And I'm sure she set up projects. I mean, I know she couldn't, but, she knew what triggered me. So the first one was to see if I could submit a compelling submission to lower the speed on the dangerous stretch of road that she was killed on. And it was already up for review by the council, but there were more against it than there were for it. And so, I dedicated myself to researching everything about the road laws and road speed laws and that particular stretch of road, because it had very, very deep ditches, which is what caused her to overcorrect in her vehicle, because there was very little leeway. You were on the road or you were in the ditch. And so, that's what I did. And I don't know how, but we were successful. So the road speed got lowered down to a speed that other people, it gave them a few more seconds to be able to manage a reaction on it. So, I was really, really happy for that. The next really significant thing was being introduced to energy healing, which is around releasing emotions. And I used this to heal myself. I came across it in a random podcast, and then I got to the beach where I was just hanging out, just doing a bit of recovery for a while. And I heard this podcast and it was so compelling. I listened to it again, and then I downloaded it and taught myself to muscle test. And then within 3 days, I had this amazing, amazing reaction start to happen in my body. I felt calm and at peace, and I felt strong. And I'd never, never, never felt that before in my life at all. I was this really hypersensitive empath. And to feel that in the midst of, still being quite fresh to grief, wow, it was incredible. And I knew that she'd guided me to it. So that led me to become a certified emotion code and body code. And that's been pretty incredible for me, that whole entire journey. I now sort of work on people globally, and it's one of the most effective and powerful modalities I've come across. I did loads and loads of stuff to help heal myself from chronic illnesses such as chronic fatigue. I had severe Crohn's, had fibromyalgia. I had so much stuff going on. How do I describe it? It's very similar to Reiki, where you're able to tap into a person's energy. So I don't need somebody in front of me. I can work on people across the world. And you're able to tap into that person's energy once you have their permission. I never do anything without permission. And then you're able to work with their subconscious to begin to release years of baggage that have built up, that affect your health. So it's things like, when you're growing up, if you're an anxious sort of kid like I was, hypersensitive, and that you tend to, worry about everything and stress about everything. And so you keep attracting all these emotions of anxiety and stress. And for me, I also attracted jealousy and bitterness and hopelessness. And I didn't have very good self-esteem. There was loads of heartache there wrapped up in it all. And like resentment. Oh gosh, I could just keep on reeling off all the emotions. Love unreceived, oh gosh, shame, guilt, pride, all those sorts of things I had wrapped up in me, and I needed to be able to release them, because the longer I had them there, the more they became my go-to, the more that if I was in a situation, I would feel guilt, or I would feel nervousness or worry or anxiety, all those sorts of things. So learning how to release them just gave me a new lease on life. And I tell you this because some of you may be searching for something, and I'm not saying that this is what may work for you, but it's another option, and it worked incredibly well for me. So I just wanted to share that with you, because that's what I also do now. I gave up my 9-to-5 job in the health sector. I worked in health IT, gave that all up because I knew that I just needed to help others with this amazing modality. So that's what I do now. Okay, so this modality essentially gave me my life back. And as I mentioned earlier, I'd never had that feeling of calm and peace and strength in my life before. What it was like this most unimaginable, heart-wrenching event gave me my life back again. Because I also remember at the time, after I lost Tahl, going, okay, the worst has happened to me. Nothing worse can happen to me now. So bring it on. I'm not going to worry about anything anybody says anymore. And just let me face everything, because losing my beautiful, beautiful girl, you did it all. You gave me the worst possible experience. And so now I can face anything. If I have to be here, I can face up to anything. And that's what I feel it's like. But it was like this incredible freedom has happened from that. So, yeah. So I really want you to think about that. If you are stuck in that right now, I'm not saying that there has to be a reason behind the death of your loved one, but sometimes things can happen for a reason, and they can lead you on to something that maybe you could never ever have thought about in your life prior. So just putting that out there. So now I can say that I've reached a place 4 years on, coming up to March 2021, where I want to help others like you find your way through the darkness by connecting with all manner of people that I've had the privilege to be connected with, or have other people connect me with, who can share their insights, who can share their tools, their wisdom, their stories, in the hope that someone will say something that will click with you, enough to give you a glimmer of hope that you can not only survive this nightmare, that you may even be able to reclaim your life again. And hopefully it can even have some joy and happiness in it again, like I've got now. Honestly, I laugh so much now. I laugh more than I ever did while Tahl was here. And sometimes that makes me feel a little bit sad. But then I know she's watching down on me, and she is so incredibly proud of me. And so that is what keeps me motivated, keeps me going. So these are some of the guests that I've lined up for you, and I'm just going to share some just so you know what type of podcast I'm putting together. So I'm going to be speaking to a mum of 6 who survived losing her eldest daughter to suicide. That's an incredible story. She's from Ireland and she's just lovely. And then I'm going to chat to a wonderful author and CEO of a publishing company, and she's going to talk to us about the value of writing and healing. So that's going to be the power of the pen. Yeah. And a beautiful medium, clairvoyant, who is discussing signs from our loved ones and why you may not be receiving signs from your loved ones. This is really something that you need to hear and maybe think about. And then I have a powerful transformation coach who specializes in grief after losing her own husband at the age of 23, and later her brother, who she was very, very close to. And she's just this beautiful soul who's going to offer a lot of really, really good insights and tools. And then you'll hear about a local coffin club here in New Zealand where I've just started volunteering. And this is manned by volunteers. And you can go there and you can have your own casket or coffin made. But what really touches my heart is that they also make all these other little beautiful caskets, and they're donated to parents whose babies are stillborn or who pass within 28 days. And they're just the most beautiful, beautiful little coffins. They've got hand-knitted little teddy bears and a little heart that goes in there, and they're beautifully lined in satin, and really. And they're just gifted to these parents at this most unimaginable, heart-wrenching time when they lose their little ones. I'm bringing you that story. And that's all just for starters. I'm lining up as we speak loads more really, really special guests, which I hope you'll be really excited about. So those are the guests. I'm not a grief expert, and I will never ever profess to be, but I just know what my own grief journey has been, and just connecting with people. That's why I want to share this. And I'm not even a really good interviewer. I stumble over my words, and I put things back to front and sideways, and probably repeat myself over and over again. But I just feel the need to be connecting in this way with all these beautiful people who can share their wonderful messages and insights that they have. I want to be doing something around this. I don't think I've had this experience for nothing. And so I just want to be able to be doing the best I can. So I'm just a mum who's lost her only child, who has found happiness after the unimaginable happened. And that is my wish for you to experience too. You may not be ready to move forward, and that is okay. And you may not even agree with some of the topics and ideas discussed, and that is okay also. You are you, and your grief journey and your grief experience is so unique to you. So together, let's find that light and hope for you as we share in the beautiful side of grief. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this episode today, feel free to share it with others. Hit the subscribe button so you can be notified of each weekly episode. Also, rate and review, especially if there is more you want to know that perhaps we didn't have time to touch on today. And if you are after resources to help you out on this journey, head to healingtobeYou.com and check those out there. So until next time, be kind to you, and thank you for joining us on the beautiful side of grief.